The moment the door slammed shut behind them, the air inside the room turned suffocating. Jessica stood frozen for a second, her chest rising and falling rapidly as she tried to process what had just been said. Nathan didn't move either, but his jaw tightened, and his eyes locked onto her like he was bracing for impact. "So that's it?" Jessica said, her voice low but trembling. "That's your answer?" Nathan exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "I didn't say no. I said not right now. Why are you twisting it?" "Because you've been saying not right now," she shot back instantly, stepping closer. "Every time I bring it up, it's always the same excuse. Timing, pressure, your career. What about ME?" The tension escalated fast, and it was clear this wasn't just about a baby anymore. This was about everything they had been avoiding. "Don't do that," Nathan warned, his tone dropping. "Don't make it sound like I don't care about you." Jessica laughed, but it wasn't humor, it was frustration spilling over. "Then prove it, because from where I'm standing, it feels like you're keeping me at arm's length." He shook his head, pacing now. "You're not listening. Having a child is a big decision. It's not something you rush into just because you feel ready in the moment." "In the moment?" she snapped, her voice rising. "You think this is a phase? You think I woke up one day and randomly decided I want a family? I've been telling you this." Emotions ran high as the argument spiraled, each word cutting deeper than the last. Outside the room, the energy was already shifting. Whispers began forming among those who could sense something was wrong. Inside, things only got worse. "And what if I'm not ready?" Nathan fired back, his voice finally rising to match hers. "What if I need more time? Does that not matter to you?" Jessica froze again, but this time it wasn't hesitation, it was hurt. Real, visible hurt. "So now I'm selfish?" she said quietly. "I didn't say that," he replied quickly, but the damage was already done. "You didn't have to." There was a long pause, heavy and uncomfortable. The kind of silence that says more than words ever could. Jessica turned away, wiping her eyes quickly before he could see. But it was too late. "Look," Nathan said, his voice softening slightly. "I just want to make sure we're stable. That we're on the same page. That we're doing this for the right reasons." She turned back around, her expression hardened now. "And what exactly are the wrong reasons, Nathan? Loving someone? Wanting to build a life together?" He hesitated, and that hesitation said everything. Fans are shocked by what unfolded next. "You know what," Jessica said, her voice steady but cold. "I think the real issue is you don't see me as your future." "That's not true," he said immediately, stepping forward. "Then why does it feel like I'm the only one fighting for it?" The question hung in the air, unanswered. Before he could respond, the door suddenly opened. Bambi stepped in, her presence instantly shifting the dynamic. She looked from one to the other, reading the room in seconds. "Okay, what is going on?" she asked, her tone cautious but direct. Neither of them answered at first. "We're just having a conversation," Nathan muttered. "No, you're not," Bambi said bluntly. "This is more than a conversation." Jessica let out a bitter laugh. "He doesn't want a baby." "I didn't say that," Nathan snapped again, clearly frustrated at how things were being framed. Bambi raised an eyebrow, folding her arms. "Then what did you say?" "I said not right now," he replied, exasperated. "Which is basically a no," Jessica added quickly. "It's not the same thing." "It feels like it is." The argument reignited instantly, pulling Bambi right into the middle of it. She sighed, shaking her head. "Y'all are talking in circles, because he won't be honest," Jessica said. "Because she won't listen," Nathan shot back. Bambi held up her hand. "Okay, enough. Both of you." They fell silent, but the tension didn't ease. Bambi looked directly at Jessica first. "I get where you're coming from. Wanting a family, wanting that next step, it's real. It's valid." Jessica nodded slightly, her expression softening for just a moment. Then Bambi turned to Nathan. "But he's not wrong either. You can't force someone into that if they're not ready," and just like that, the room shifted again. Jessica's face changed instantly. "Excuse me? I'm just saying." "No, I heard what you said," Jessica interrupted, her tone sharp. "I just didn't expect it from you." Bambi frowned. "I'm not picking sides. I'm being real." "Real?" Jessica scoffed. "Or convenient?" Nathan looked between them, clearly not expecting the tension to redirect like this. "Don't do that," Bambi said, her voice firm now. "Don't make me the bad guy because I'm telling the truth." "Your truth," Jessica corrected. "The truth," Bambi repeated. The family was left divided in that moment, lines being drawn that no one saw coming. Nathan stepped in, trying to regain control of the situation. "This isn't about Bambi." "No, it is," Jessica said, turning toward him again. "Because now I see exactly where you're getting your mindset from." His eyes widened slightly. "What does that mean?" "It means you've already made up your mind," she said. "You just didn't have the courage to say it." "That's not fair," he argued. "Neither is this," she replied, her voice breaking despite her effort to stay strong. Bambi stepped back slightly, realizing things were escalating beyond her control. "I think y'all need to." "No," Jessica cut her off again. "I think I need to hear the truth. Right now." She looked directly at Nathan, her eyes searching his face for something, anything. "Do you even see a future with me?" she asked. The question hit harder than anything else. Nathan opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. And in that silence, everything changed. The silence stretched longer than anyone expected, thick and unbearable, and Jessica's eyes didn't leave his face for even a second, as if she was trying to pull the answer out of him without him saying a word. And that hesitation from Nathan didn't just feel like uncertainty anymore, it felt like confirmation of everything she had been fearing all along. "Say something," she whispered, but there was a sharp edge beneath it, not a plea but a demand, and Nathan finally looked away, rubbing the back of his neck like he was trying to buy himself time. "It's not that simple," he said quietly. And that was it. That was the moment everything snapped, because Jessica let out a hollow laugh that echoed through the room. "Not that simple?" she repeated, her voice rising again. "Loving someone is not that simple? Building a life is not that simple? Or is it just me that's not that simple for you?" Emotions ran high as she paced back and forth now, her hands shaking, and Bambi stood off to the side watching it unfold, her expression caught between concern and frustration, because even she could see this wasn't going to end well. "You're twisting everything I'm saying," Nathan tried again, his tone defensive but less confident than before. "I'm trying to be responsible." "No," Jessica cut in sharply, turning on him again. "You're trying to stall, you're trying to keep things exactly how they are because it's comfortable for you." Fans are shocked at how quickly the situation spiraled as voices continued to rise, the energy in the room becoming almost explosive. "You don't get to decide that," Nathan said, stepping closer, his voice firmer now. "This is my life too." "And what about mine?" She fired back instantly, "Because I feel like I've been putting mine on hold waiting for you to catch up." That line hit harder than anything else, and for a second Nathan didn't respond, his expression shifting as if he wasn't expecting her to go there. "That's not fair," he said again, but this time it sounded weaker, less certain, and Jessica saw it. She stepped even closer, her voice dropping but somehow becoming even more intense. "Then tell me what is fair, Nathan, because from where I'm standing it looks like you want all the benefits of being with me without actually committing to the future I want." Bambi shifted uncomfortably, glancing between them as the argument deepened, and she finally spoke up again. "Okay, this is getting out of hand," she said, trying to cut through the chaos. "Y'all are both emotional right now." "Of course I'm emotional," Jessica snapped, not even looking at her. "This is my life we're talking about, and it's his too," Bambi replied, her tone steady but firm, and that only added more fuel to the fire. "You keep saying that." Jessica turned to her now, eyes narrowing. "Like I'm the only one being unreasonable here." "I didn't say that," Bambi responded quickly, "but you can't ignore how he feels either, and he's been ignoring how I feel," Jessica shot back, and for a moment it became less about the baby and more about being heard at all. The room filled with overlapping voices, tension building with every second until Nathan suddenly raised his voice louder than before. "Because I feel like no matter what I say it's not enough for you," and that stunned both of them into silence again, but this time it was different. This wasn't hesitation, this was frustration boiling over. "I feel like I'm constantly being pushed into something I'm not ready for," he continued, his words coming faster now, "like if I don't agree right now then suddenly I'm the bad guy, suddenly I don't love you enough, suddenly I'm the problem." Jessica blinked, clearly caught off guard by the intensity of his response. "That's not what I'm saying," she said, but her voice had softened slightly. "That's exactly what it feels like," he replied. And there it was, the other side of the story finally coming out, raw and unfiltered. Emotions ran high as both of them stood there facing each other like strangers instead of partners, and Bambi watched carefully, realizing this was no longer just a disagreement, it was a breaking point. "So what are you saying?" Jessica asked after a pause, her voice quieter now but still tense. "Are you saying you don't want this at all?" Nathan hesitated again, but this time it was different. It wasn't avoidance, it was fear of saying the wrong thing. "I'm saying I don't want to rush into something that's going to change everything if we're not ready," he answered finally, and Jessica's expression hardened again. "We," she repeated slowly. "Are you?" The emphasis hit hard and Nathan sighed, clearly frustrated. "Why does it always have to be one or the other with you?" he asked. "Why can't it just be that we need more time?" "Because time doesn't fix everything," she replied immediately. "Sometimes time just reveals the truth," and that line landed heavy, the kind of statement that lingers in the air long after it's said. Fans are shocked by the emotional weight of the moment as both of them stood there absorbing what had just been said, and Bambi could see the distance growing between them with every passing second. "Okay, I'm gonna be real with both of you," she said carefully, stepping forward again. "This isn't just about a baby anymore." Neither of them argued with that because deep down they both knew it was true. "This is about trust, about where you see yourselves going, about whether you're even on the same page anymore," she continued, and Jessica looked away again, biting her lip as if trying to hold back everything she was feeling. "I thought we were," she admitted quietly, almost to herself, and Nathan's expression softened for a moment hearing that, but it didn't last. "We are," he said quickly, "we just have different timelines, and what if those timelines never match?" She asked, looking back at him, and that question hit harder than anything else so far because there was no easy answer to it, no way to smooth it over or redirect the conversation, and once again silence filled the room, but this time it felt final, like something had shifted permanently. Bambi exhaled slowly, realizing she was witnessing something bigger than just an argument. This was a relationship at a crossroads. You both need to think about what you really want, she said softly, not what you think you should want or what you're trying to convince each other to want, but what you actually want. Jessica nodded slightly, but her eyes stayed on Nathan, searching for something that still wasn't there. I know what I want, she said, her voice steady again. I just don't know if you're ever going to want the same thing. And Nathan looked at her like he wanted to respond, like he wanted to say something that would fix everything, but nothing came out, and that silence spoke louder than anything he could have said. The family was left divided not just by opinions but by uncertainty, because no one in that room knew what was going to happen next, and just when it seemed like things couldn't get any more intense, there was a knock at the door, sharp and unexpected, breaking the moment completely. All three of them turned toward it at the same time, confusion flashing across their faces. And before anyone could say anything, the door opened again and another familiar face stepped in, their expression serious as they took in the tension immediately. Wow. I can feel the energy in here, they said slowly, and just like that the situation shifted once again, but not in a way anyone was prepared for, because what they were about to reveal would change everything all over again. The room went completely still as Rashida stepped inside, her eyes scanning from Jessica to Nathan to Bambi, instantly reading the tension like it was written across the walls. Yeah. This ain't just a conversation, she said slowly, closing the door behind her. And nobody even tried to deny it because the energy was too heavy to pretend otherwise. Jessica folded her arms tightly like she was holding herself together, while Nathan took a step back, creating just a little more distance between them, and Bambi exhaled under her breath, already knowing this was about to get even messier. What happened? Rashida asked, her tone calm but direct, and for a second nobody spoke until Jessica finally broke the silence. He doesn't want a baby, she said flatly, and Nathan immediately shook his head. That's not what I said, but this time his voice lacked the same force as before, like even he was getting tired of repeating himself. Rashida raised a brow, looking between them carefully. Okay, so what did you say? And before Nathan could answer, Jessica jumped in again. He said not right now, which is the same thing as no when you keep saying it over and over again. Emotions ran high as her voice cracked slightly at the end, and Rashida turned to Nathan, waiting for his side. I said I need time, he replied, his tone controlled but strained. This is a huge step and I don't want to rush it if we're not fully solid. Rashida nodded slowly like she understood, but she didn't respond right away, instead letting the weight of both perspectives settle in the room. So basically y'all are not on the same page, she concluded. And that simple statement somehow hit harder than all the yelling before it, because it stripped everything down to the truth. The family was left divided not just in opinion but in loyalty, as Bambi stood slightly behind Nathan while Rashida's gaze lingered on Jessica a little longer, sensing her hurt. I thought we were on the same page, Jessica said, her voice quieter now but more painful. That's the problem, Nathan replied. You assumed we were without actually hearing me. That line immediately reignited the tension as Jessica looked at him in disbelief. Are you serious right now? She asked. I've been hearing you, I just didn't think you meant it like that. Well, I do, he said firmly, and the bluntness of it made the room go cold again. Fans are shocked at how quickly the situation kept escalating despite new people stepping in. Okay, hold on. Rashida stepped forward, raising her hand slightly, because this is going in circles again. She looked directly at Nathan first. Do you see a future with her? And this time there was no hesitation. Yes, he answered immediately, and Jessica's expression softened just a fraction, but she didn't say anything yet. Then Rashida turned to Jessica. And you want that future to include a baby soon, not just soon, Jessica corrected. I want to feel like we're building something real, not just talking about it forever. Rashida nodded again, then glanced at Bambi. And you think she's pushing too hard? Bambi shrugged slightly but didn't back down. I think she's ready and he's not, and forcing that is only gonna make things worse. That honesty hung in the air, and Jessica shook her head slowly. You keep saying forcing like I'm dragging him into something against his will. That's what it looks like from the outside, Bambi replied, and that stung more than anything else, because now it wasn't just Nathan, it was how others were seeing her too. Wow, Jessica whispered, looking around the room like she didn't recognize any of them anymore. So I'm the problem now? Nobody said that. Rashida interjected quickly, but you gotta understand how it comes off. How it comes off? Jessica repeated, her frustration building again. What about how he comes off? Someone who keeps moving the goalpost every time we get close to something real? Nathan let out a frustrated breath. That's not what I'm doing. Then what are you doing? She shot back, and again he didn't have an immediate answer, and that silence once again spoke volumes. Rashida noticed it too, her expression tightening slightly as she processed everything. Okay, let me ask you something, she said, turning fully toward Nathan now. If she didn't bring up having a baby again, would you bring it up? That question hit like a bomb because it forced a truth that had been hiding beneath everything else. Nathan looked away again, his jaw clenching as he thought about it, and the longer he took to answer the more Jessica's face fell. Answer the question, she said quietly, and finally he spoke. probably not right now. And that was it. That was the moment everything shifted for real, because this wasn't about timing anymore, this was about initiative, this was about desire, and Jessica saw it clearly now. "Thank you," she said softly, but there was no relief in her voice, only disappointment. "Thank you for finally being honest. That's not what I meant." Nathan tried to backtrack, but it was too late. "No, that's exactly what you meant," she said, shaking her head, "and I needed to hear that." Emotions ran high again, but this time it was different. There was less yelling and more realization, more quiet devastation than explosive anger. Bambi crossed her arms, watching closely, realizing the tone had shifted into something more serious. "So what does that mean for you?" Rashida asked gently, looking at Jessica, and Jessica took a deep breath like she was preparing herself for something bigger than just this conversation. "It means I've been fighting for something he's not even thinking about," she said. "It means I've been planning a future alone." Those words landed heavy, and even Nathan looked affected by them. "That's not fair," he said again, but it sounded almost automatic now, like he didn't know what else to say. "It's how it feels," she replied, and for a moment nobody argued with that, because feelings don't need permission to be real. The room fell quiet again, but this silence felt different. It wasn't tension anymore, it was clarity slowly settling in. Rashida stepped closer to Jessica, placing a hand lightly on her arm. "You deserve someone who's aligned with what you want," she said softly, and that didn't go unnoticed by Nathan, his expression tightening as he processed the implication. "So what are you saying?" he asked, looking between them. "I'm saying you both need to figure out if you're actually aligned or just comfortable," Rashida answered, and that hit deeper than anything else, because comfort can look a lot like love until it's tested, because right now it looks like y'all want two different futures, she added. And Jessica nodded slowly, like she was finally accepting something she had been avoiding. "Maybe we do," she admitted, and those three words changed everything. Nathan stepped forward again, clearly shaken now. "So that's it? You're just gonna give up?" he asked, and there was a hint of desperation in his voice for the first time. "I'm not giving up," she replied calmly. "I'm waking up," and that line cut through him completely. Fans are shocked at how quickly the power dynamic shifted as Jessica went from pleading to resolute. "You don't just walk away from something like this," Nathan insisted. "We can work through this. We've been trying to work through it," she said, "and we keep ending up right here." Bambi shifted again, clearly uncomfortable now as the situation reached a breaking point. "Maybe y'all just need space," she suggested, and surprisingly this time no one argued with her, because deep down they all knew something had to change. "Maybe we do," Jessica said quietly. And then she looked at Nathan one last time, her expression no longer angry but distant. "Because staying like this isn't fair to either of us." Nathan didn't respond immediately, and when he finally did, his voice was lower than before, almost defeated. "I never wanted it to get to this point, neither did I," she replied, and that was the truth that hurt the most. Rashida looked between them both, realizing she had just witnessed a turning point that couldn't be undone. The family was left divided, not just in opinion but in outcome, because no one knew if this was a temporary break or the beginning of the end. And as Jessica turned toward the door, her hand pausing briefly on the handle, there was a moment where it felt like everything could still change if someone said the right thing, if someone made the right move, but no one did. And as the door slowly opened, the silence behind her said more than any argument ever could, leaving everyone in that room with the same question hanging in the air: what happens next? The door didn't slam this time, it closed slowly, almost too calmly, and that quiet exit hit harder than any shouting match, because it felt final in a way none of them were ready to admit. Nathan stood frozen, staring at the door like if he moved too fast he might shatter whatever was left of the moment, his chest rising as if he was about to go after her, but his feet refused to follow, and that hesitation didn't go unnoticed by anyone in the room. Bambi looked at him first, then at Rashida and back again, like she was waiting for someone to say something to break the silence, but nobody did, at least not right away. "You just gonna let her walk out like that?" Bambi finally said, her tone sharp but not aggressive, just real, and that snapped Nathan out of it slightly. "I don't even know what to say anymore," he admitted, running his hands over his face. "Every time I try it just makes it worse." Rashida shook her head, slowly stepping closer. "No, what makes it worse is not saying anything when it actually matters," she replied. And that hit, because deep down he knew she was right. Emotions ran high even in the silence as the weight of everything that had just happened settled into the room. "You heard what she said," Bambi added. "She feels like she's been planning a future alone. That's not a small thing." "I know that." Nathan snapped slightly, then immediately softened. "I know that," he repeated, quieter. And for the first time there was no defensiveness, just confusion and regret mixing together. "Then why didn't you say something when she asked you if you see a future with her?" Rashida pressed, and he looked away again, because the truth wasn't simple. "Because I do," he said, "but it's not the same future she's talking about right now." And there it was, the real issue laid bare in a way that couldn't be misunderstood anymore. The family was left divided, not because anyone was wrong but because nobody was aligned. Meanwhile, outside the room, Jessica didn't get far before the emotions she had been holding in finally caught up to her. She leaned against the wall, taking a shaky breath as her eyes filled again, but this time there was no one there to see it, no one to challenge her, no one to soften it, just her and the reality of what had just happened. "I can't can't keep doing this, she whispered to herself. And those words felt heavier than anything she had said inside, because this wasn't about winning an argument anymore, this was about choosing herself. Fans are shocked at how quickly the narrative shifted from confrontation to consequence as both sides began to process what this actually meant. Back inside the room, Nathan paced again, his movements restless now, like the energy had nowhere to go. I should go talk to her, he said, suddenly stopping mid-step, and Bambi raised a brow. Should you, or are you actually going to? She asked, and that question forced a decision he couldn't avoid. He hesitated again just for a second, but this time Rashida stepped in closer, her voice firm. If you don't go now, you might not get another chance. And that was enough that pushed him forward. He moved quickly toward the door, pulling it open and stepping out into the hallway. The shift in energy immediate as he spotted Jessica down the corridor, still standing there but turned slightly away from him. Jessica, he called out, and she didn't respond right away, which made his chest tighten because for the first time he felt like he might actually lose her. Jessica, wait, he said again, moving closer, and finally she turned to face him, her expression guarded but not angry, just tired. What? She asked simply, and that one word carried more weight than any of the arguments before. Can we talk? He asked, and she let out a soft breath, almost like she was deciding whether it was even worth it anymore. We've been talking, she replied. That's the problem. No, we've been arguing, he corrected, stepping closer but not too close, careful now in a way he hadn't been before. There's a difference. She didn't respond immediately, just looked at him like she was trying to figure out if this was going to be another loop or something actually different. I don't want to lose you, he said finally, and that line landed, but it didn't fix anything, not yet. Then why does it feel like you're okay with pushing me away? She asked, her voice steady but vulnerable again, and that hit him harder than anything else because it wasn't an attack, it was a truth he couldn't deny. I'm not okay with that, he said quickly. I feel like you're asking me to jump into something I'm not ready for, and if I say that then suddenly everything falls apart, because it matters, she replied. It's not just some random idea, it's something I've been holding on to, something I thought we were building toward together. We are, he insisted, just not at the same speed, and what if that speed never changes? She asked again, bringing them right back to the core issue, but this time it felt less like a challenge and more like a genuine question. He didn't answer right away, and that silence stretched again, but this time it felt different, less defensive, more reflective. Then we have a bigger problem, he admitted quietly, and that honesty shifted something between them because at least now he wasn't avoiding it. So what are we doing? She asked, her voice softer now but still uncertain. Because I can't stay stuck in this middle ground forever. I don't want you to feel stuck, he said, and I don't want to feel rushed either. So where does that leave us? She pressed, and again there was no easy answer, but this time he didn't look away. It leaves us figuring out if we can meet somewhere in between or if we're actually going in two different directions, he said, and that was the clearest he had been the entire time. Emotions ran high again, but now it was layered with something else, honesty without the noise. She nodded, slowly absorbing that. And if we are going in different directions? She asked, and his expression shifted again because that was the question he didn't want to answer. Then we have to be real about that, he said finally, and even saying it out loud felt like a risk. She looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for something, maybe reassurance, maybe certainty, but what she found was uncertainty that matched her own, and that was both comforting and terrifying at the same time. Back in the room, Bambi and Rashida stood near the doorway, watching from a distance, not close enough to hear every word but close enough to read the energy. This could go either way, Bambi said quietly, and Rashida nodded. Yeah, and that's the scary part, because for the first time this wasn't just drama, this was real consequences, real decisions that couldn't be undone with a simple apology. In the hallway, Jessica took a deep breath like she was grounding herself. I need clarity, she said finally. Not promises, not maybes, not later. I need to know what I'm actually building, and I need time to be sure I'm building it the right way, he replied, and there it was again, the same conflict but now stripped of anger, just two truths that didn't quite fit together. The family was left divided not by sides anymore but by reality, because sometimes love isn't the issue, timing is, and timing doesn't always bend no matter how much you want it to. I don't want to pressure you, she said, but I can't ignore what I want either, and I don't want to lose you, he said again, and this time it sounded different, less like a statement, more like a realization. They stood there in silence again, but now it wasn't empty, it was heavy with possibility and risk both at the same time. Fans are shocked because instead of a clear resolution, what unfolded was something far more complicated, a moment where everything could still be saved or completely fall apart depending on what happened next. And as they both stood there, neither stepping forward nor walking away, it became clear that this wasn't the end of their story, not yet, but whatever came next would change everything for good. The hallway felt smaller, somehow like the walls were closing in around them as the weight of everything settled deeper and deeper. And for a long moment neither of them spoke, because they both understood that whatever came next wasn't just another argument, it was a decision that could change the entire direction of their lives. Jessica finally broke the silence, her voice quieter but more grounded than before. I don't want to keep circling the same conversation over and over again, she said. I need something real, something I can actually hold onto, and Nathan nodded slowly like he understood, but the uncertainty in his eyes still hadn't disappeared. I hear you, he said. I really do. Then show me, she replied immediately, not raising her voice but making it clear that words alone weren't enough anymore. That line hung between them and forced him to confront something he had been avoiding this whole time, because showing her meant stepping into a space he wasn't fully ready for and he knew it. Emotions ran high again, but now it was layered with pressure, the kind that doesn't come from yelling but from expectations that can't be ignored. What does that look like to you? He asked carefully, and Jessica didn't hesitate this time. It looks like commitment, not just in words but in actions. It looks like knowing we're moving toward the same future instead of me guessing where you stand every time, she said, and the clarity in her voice made it impossible to misunderstand. Back in the room, Bambi leaned against the wall, arms crossed, while Rashida stood near the doorway, both of them listening closely, trying to read the situation as it unfolded outside. She's done playing around, Bambi muttered under her breath, and Rashida nodded. Yeah, and he knows it too, because there was a shift in the energy that even they could feel from a distance. In the hallway, Nathan took a deep breath like he was preparing himself for something bigger than just this conversation. I don't want you to feel like you're guessing, he said, but I also don't want to make a promise I'm not ready to fully stand on yet. And that honesty, while real, still didn't give her what she needed. That's exactly the problem, Jessica replied. Her tone still steady, but now there was a hint of finality creeping in. You keep talking about what you don't want to do, but you're not telling me what you do want to do. And that question hit him in a way the others hadn't, because it forced him to define his own intentions instead of reacting to hers. He paused again, but this time it wasn't hesitation, it was reflection. I want us to be solid, he said slowly, choosing his words carefully. I want to feel like we've built something that can actually handle that next step, not something that might break under it. And what if building that never feels complete to you? She asked. What if there's always another reason to wait? And that question exposed the fear underneath everything, because sometimes waiting isn't about readiness, it's about avoidance. He looked at her like he understood exactly what she was saying but didn't know how to fix it. Then that's something I need to figure out, he admitted, and that answer, while honest, still didn't close the gap between them. The family was left divided, not by opinions anymore but by uncertainty, because even they could tell this wasn't heading toward a simple resolution. Jessica took a small step back, creating a little more space between them, physically mirroring the emotional distance that had already started to form. I can't keep putting my life on pause while you figure that out, she said, and that line carried a quiet strength that hadn't been there before. It wasn't angry, it wasn't emotional, it was decisive. Nathan's expression shifted again, this time with a clear sense of realization, because he could feel her slipping away in a way that felt different from before. This wasn't temporary frustration, this was a turning point. I'm not asking you to pause your life, he said quickly. I'm asking for time, and I'm telling you time is exactly what I don't have to waste anymore, she replied, and that statement cut deeper than anything else, because it wasn't about him, it was about her own timeline, her own needs, her own future. Fans are shocked as the conversation moved from emotional confrontation to a quiet but powerful standoff, where both sides were finally standing firm in what they wanted. Back inside the room, Rashida shook her head slightly. This is real now, she said. Like really real? And Bambi nodded. Yeah, there's no coming back from this being just a fight. Because they could both see it, this wasn't something that would be forgotten or brushed aside, it was something that would define what happened next. In the hallway, Jessica looked at Nathan one more time, her expression calm but distant. I love you, she said, and those words landed in a way that was both comforting and heartbreaking at the same time. But love alone isn't enough if we're not building the same life. Nathan swallowed hard, hearing that, because it was the truth he had been avoiding this entire time. I love you too, he replied, and for a second it felt like that might be enough to close the gap, but it wasn't, not this time. Then we need to be honest about what that means, she said, because staying in something that's not aligned isn't love, it's fear. And that line shifted everything again, because it forced both of them to confront not just their feelings but their motivations. He stepped closer instinctively, like he didn't want her to drift any further away. So what are you saying? He asked, even though part of him already knew the answer. She took a breath, steadying herself before responding. I'm saying I need space to figure out what's next for me without feeling like I'm waiting on you to catch up. And there it was, the decision, not explosive, not dramatic, just clear and undeniable. Nathan's shoulders dropped slightly as the weight of it hit him fully. Space? He repeated, like he needed to hear it again to believe it. Yes, she said simply, and there was no hesitation this time, no second guessing, just certainty. Emotions ran high again, but now it was quieter, deeper, more internal than before, because sometimes the loudest moments aren't the ones filled with shouting, they're the ones filled with acceptance. And what does that mean for us? He asked, and that question lingered in the air because it didn't have a clear answer yet. It means we figure out if we're actually meant to move forward together or if we've been holding on to something that's already changed, she replied, and that was the most honest thing either of them had said all night. Back in the room, Bambi and Rashida exchanged a look, both of them understanding exactly what that meant even without hearing every word. This could be it, Bambi said quietly, and Rashida didn't disagree, because sometimes space isn't just distance, it's clarity. In the hallway, Nathan nodded slowly, even though it was clear he didn't like it, but he understood it. I don't want to lose lose you," he said one last time, and Jessica's expression softened just slightly. "Then don't waste this," she replied, and that was the closest thing to hope that remained between them. She turned again, this time with more certainty than before, and began walking away, her steps steady, not rushed, not hesitant, just forward. And Nathan stayed where he was, watching her go, knowing that chasing her right now wouldn't fix anything, because this wasn't about stopping her from leaving, it was about whether they would find their way back to each other after everything had been said. The family was left divided and uncertain as the moment settled into reality, because no one knew if this space would bring them closer or push them further apart. And as the hallway grew quiet again, the only thing that remained was the weight of what had just happened and the unanswered question hanging over all of them: what happens when love is strong but the future doesn't match? And just like that, what started as a simple conversation turned into one of the most emotional and unexpected clashes we've seen, leaving everything hanging by a thread. Jessica walked away, choosing clarity over comfort, while Nathan was left standing there facing a reality he can't ignore anymore. Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the family was left divided as one question continues to linger: is this just a break, or the beginning of the end? Because let's be real, love is one thing, but when two people want completely different futures, something has to give. Will Nathan step up before it's too late? Or will Jessica finally move on and find the life she's been fighting for all along? And where does Bambi stand now after everything that was said? This situation is far from over, and you already know more drama is coming. Now I need to hear from you. Do you think Jessica was right to walk away, or should she have given Nathan more time? Is Nathan being careful or just avoiding commitment? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button if you felt the tension in this story, and don't forget to subscribe for more explosive drama just like this. Because trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next.